According to this report that I'm going to discuss today, there's going to be a shortage of about 200,000 rental units if things continue at the same pace. This is Sam from Remax Realtron Realty Inc. and obviously SaberiSixRealEstate. You can find me at Instagram, Gmail, my phone number, all my contact information in the description box. As well, feel free to comment, review, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and thought it was informative. If not, tell me what I can do better. I'm going based on a report released by this agency, the Federal Rental Housing Providers of Ontario. And they predict that there's going to be a shortage of about 200,000 rental units if we do not build more rental units, more purpose-built rental units. And I'll explain what that means in a second for renters. The point of differentiation that we have to understand here, and a lot of people don't understand, is that rental apartments are different than condos and houses that you rent. That's why rental apartments, we call them purpose-built rentals, because the builder, the developer, is building that apartment so it can be a high-rise or a low-rise with purely the intentions of renting the units. There's no purchase and sale happening. You cannot buy or sell. There are no unit owners. The company, the corporation, the landlord corporation and developer, the property management company owns the building. And everyone who lives in that building, that structure, are tenants, and the landlords, once again, is the property management company and the corporation. As most other arrangements that I talk about on this channel and realtors are involved with are condos for rent, meaning there's an owner bought a condo for investment purposes, and maybe not even investment purposes, has a condo but moves elsewhere, wants to rent that condo. That owner owns that unit. This is the property management company, no corporation owns that unit but the owner. So we're talking about the former. Same thing applies to houses. Houses, if you rent a house, a basement, a first story, or the entire house, once again, where it does not apply to this, right? The shortage is only referring to the rental apartments, not any other arrangement. The crux of the argument that this report presents is that due to the increased job growth in immigration pre-pandemic, and once again, they're predicting, assuming that the job growth and immigration is going to bounce back post-pandemic, there's a pent-up and increasing demand for rental units because, or rental apartments, because home ownership is costly for these first comers and people who are newly immigrated to this country or this province. And condominium rentals, so once again, a unit in a condo where you want to rent typically is far more expensive than rental apartments. One benefit of a rental apartment is that the rents are much lower than any other rental arrangement. So if you're renting a condo unit or if you're renting a house. In support of the argument that there has been excessive job growth, you can see this chart on the screen currently for the last 5 years, obviously after 2009, because you see there was a large dip in job growth. But in the last preceding 5 years, there has been an average of 115,000 jobs added each year. And once again, referring to this chart now, you can see the Ontario population growth in terms of immigration and net immigration. And according to this chart, immigration and net immigration are pretty directly related. They don't have an inverse relationship, right? So the job growth in conjunction with the increased immigration pre-pandemic and obviously post-pandemic, they say these trends are going to continue based this demand for rental arrangements. And once again, please do note that if you're asking the question, well, why is the condominium and the current rental market that we have not enough? All these videos you've made about condos for rent, houses for rent, rental prices, that's just referring to, once again, the secondary market, which is houses and units for rent by owners. This is just talking about rental apartments. As I've said, rental apartments are much more affordable and cheaper, and migrants who are coming here for jobs typically, and I know this is the case with my parents and my family, first reside in these rental apartments before moving out, either buying or moving up and paying a costlier rent for condominium units. And according to numbers, purpose-built rental arrangements such as rental apartments, their construction and development has not matched this pace of demand for them. That's why they're predicting a shortage. For instance, one figure that we can look at is the number of rental developments that were built. Once again, purpose-built rental developments. In 2018, 8,162 rental purpose-built apartments were were constructed and developed. As we saw a dip in 2019, it was down to 7,149, I believe. Furthermore, let's look at this chart where it graphs out different types of arrangements as available by year. What you have in the gray is owner-occupied condominiums that at times will be available for rent because the owner will choose to rent it either as an investor or themselves, once again, they're an end user, but they've moved out for whatever reason and they want to rent what they own. Then you have what's represented by the blue, which is condominium rental, and the way they're defining it is if the condominium unit, or rather, sorry, the building, if 35% of it is occupied by rental arrangements. So that's what they're referring to as condominium rental. And then by the black, in this bar graph, what you have is what this report is saying there will be a shortage of, which is purpose-built rental arrangements, such as, once again, rental apartments. In proportion to the blue portions of the bar graphs and the white portions, or the gray, we see that owner-occupied condominiums and, once again, the mixed condominium rentals greatly outpace these rental arrangements and rental apartments, rental-only apartments. So insofar as I have anything to say about this, I do believe that developers are not incentivized to build these rental apartments, these purpose-built rentals. If you have a great deal of financing, you're further incentivized to build condominiums where the owners can buy and themselves can rent out units. At the end of the day, purchase and sale, which is, once again, these pre-construction projects, what they are aiming at, these builders and developers and people who have a high degree of finances and can access financiers for them to fund their developments, what sees the most returns is purchase and sale, and not tenancy-only buildings that they want to construct. And for those tenancy-only buildings that currently exist, frankly, they are holding on to it until the land value gets to a point where it's worth for them to sell to another builder who wants to build, once again, condominium units for purchase and sale. So around where I live, there are many rental apartments, and they're very old. And in a few years, I believe they will be sold to a bigger developer, or the same company will knock them down and build a pre-construction project. And naturally, people themselves don't want to have a tenant-landlord relationship, in my frank opinion, with corporations. They would much rather have that tenant-landlord relationship with a human being. Now, this is some psychological fact, but in my experience, is backed up by how I've worked with tenants. You have builders and people who provide housing and build housing. They're incentivized to build, purchase, and sale, and people, although they resort to rental apartments because they're cheaper, they would much rather either rent a condo or a house from the owner, or potentially become owners themselves one day and buy a house. Anyways, that's Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, please feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. I'm just playing with this windscreen. And yeah, ask me any questions you have. My contact information in the description box. I am working with many buyers right now and sellers. And yeah, always open to hearing your questions and feedback. Thank you.